Welcome, everyone. We'll give it a few seconds before we start. Excited to see you all. Again, we'll just give it like a few seconds and then we'll be joining in.
Hola a todos y bienvenidos. Vamos a dar unos minutitos antes de empezar. De nuevo, bienvenidos y empezamos muy pronto.
All right. For those who just joined in, welcome. We'll go ahead and get started, and as people keep trickling in, my name is Meise Gonzalez, the Climate Justice and Clean Air Advocate, and I'm joined with Cumbia Badia, the Communications Coordinator. Before we start, I'd like to hand it off to Ada and Stephanie for interpretation instructions. Mike's all yours.
Hola a todos y bienvenidos. El taller de hoy, la presentación de hoy. Disculpen. El taller de hoy va a ser un taller bilingüe, entonces si quieren escuchar la interpretación.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie. I might need to move you over still. Are you not on as an interpreter? Stephanie, can you hear me? I'm gonna stop the share for a second and just check the interpretation on the back end.
Can you guys hear me on this device? Can you guys hear me on this device? No.
Yes, we can hear you, Stephanie. I'm gonna be moving you. Okay, let's see if that worked now. Okay, I think I moved them over now. So you can continue with your instructions.
Listo. Entonces, solo les queremos recordar que en taller de hoy hay interpretación. Para escuchar la interpretación van a ir abajo a los 3 puntitos que dicen más y ahí pueden hacer clic y escoger interpretación y escoger su canal. Si quieren participar en español, van al canal de español. Si son bilingües en inglés y en español, lo pueden dejar en apagado o audio original. Just a reminder that today's workshop will be bilingual and we are providing simultaneous English-Spanish interpretation. To hear the interpretation, you'll go down to the Zoom toolbar and click on the 3 dots that say More, and then click on Interpretation. If you want to participate in English, you'll go to the English channel. If you are bilingual in English and Spanish, you can leave it on off or original audio. Pedimos que por favor solo hable una persona a la vez, que hablen a un ritmo moderado, especialmente si están leyendo, y que hablen fuerte y claro, y cualquier cosa les podemos dejar saber en el chat. We ask for you to please speak one person at a time, to speak at a moderate pace, especially if you're reading, and to speak loud and clear. If there's any issues with the interpretation, please let us know. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
So thank you both for your help with interpretations. Go ahead to the next slide, please. If you have any questions with interpretations during the presentation, feel free to drop down in the chat. Again, welcome and thank you for joining our Climate Justice and Clean Air Colectivo Encuentro with Green Latinos. As always, feel free to drop your name, pronoun, organization, and location in the chat. Also, while you're sharing your info, I would love to hear what's been your soundtrack for the summer so far. Like many of you are, I am always on the lookout for new music. For me, it's been Lady Gaga's Summer Boy song. It just keeps playing everywhere and it's just been on repeat, so it's a good favorite for mine. I'll let you take a moment to respond in the chat, but if you'd like to unmute yourself in this section, go ahead as well. We have Erasure, 80s British pop. That is, I have not heard that, so I have to put that on my list. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing. Feel free to keep sharing your info down as we continue. Oh, looks like we got some sounds on here. Snow the Product's new song, Sábado. I recently heard that song. It was pretty funny. I actually really like Snow the Product. Awesome. Well, next slide, please. All right, so quick overview of today's agenda. We'll begin by handing over the mic to Dr. Juan Dislet Barreto, who is a Green Latinos board member, but also works with the Union of Concerned Scientists for a breakdown of findings regarding danger season. Next, we'll go over program updates, including ways to take action against EPA's effort to dismantle foundational laws to act on climate, ways for you to share your story to help reduce methane emissions, and a preview of our 2025 New York Climate Week event in collaboration with Uprose. Finally, but not least, we will wrap up with member updates and announcements from all of you. So if you have an upcoming event, questions, or ideas for the Colectivo, keep a pin on those for the end. Throughout the presentation, we'll have designated Q&A sections, but feel free to drop any question in the chat as we go along. Next slide, please. Oh, so all right, now I'd like to introduce Dr. Dislet Barreto from Union of Concerned Scientists. Dr. Juan Dislet Barreto is a bilingual senior social scientist for climate vulnerability for the Climate and Energy Program at the Union of Concerned Scientists. At UCS, he researches maps, analyzes, communicates, and finds solutions to the inequitable human health and livelihood impacts of environmental hazards, particularly those exacerbated by climate change. An interdisciplinary environmental and social scientist, Dr. Dislet Barreto earned a PhD in environmental social sciences, an MA and BS degree in geography, and an associate's degree in geographic informational systems from Arizona State University. Thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you, Maysay. You can hear me, correct? Yeah. Well, thank you to Maysay and to Green Latinos for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here as a scientist from UCS, and also to deepen my collaboration as a board member with the membership and with the staff. Can you put up my first slide, please? Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a couple of different things that are making extreme weather made worse by climate change this year worse due to cuts from the Trump administration. I'm going to talk to you a little bit also about the framing that we use at UCS that we call danger season, which is the period between May and October, when extreme weather made worse by climate change is becoming more frequent, more dangerous, and more likely to impact people and communities. I'll talk about three main things. The context of attacks on federal science that keeps us protected and informed, such as cuts to NOAA, National Weather Service, NASA, the dismantlement of the infrastructure for federal disaster response and recovery, FEMA, HUD, and so on, and the lack of heat protections for both workers and residential communities as danger season and extreme heat advance unimpeded this season. So yeah, this year it feels different because in this context, all these things are being are making things worse. The dismantlement by the administration of all of these protections of these resources from the federal government, staff, data, information, recovery resources are going to make it harder to cope. And now states are being pushed to take on the burden of disaster assistance, which is adding to the stress. Next slide, please. So first, some context on climate change. As we know, climate change is worsening disasters. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, reported last year that at least 568 lives were lost in 27 separate disasters that each reported damages of $1 billion or more, with a total economic cost of at least $182.7 billion. And last year was also the hottest year on record globally. Climate is making extreme weather more severe. For example, warmer air and oceans are producing more extreme hurricanes with record-breaking amounts of rain and wind strength. Storms that intensify overnight to category 3 and 5 are becoming more common due to climate change. We saw this a couple of days ago when Hurricane Erin, that thankfully did not make landfall anywhere, intensified very rapidly over the course of 24 hours. But we're losing the ability to keep track of those and understand how those storms are evolving and intensifying rapidly, again, due to the federal cuts from the Trump administration. So all this means that as the world continues to warm due to additional heat trapping emissions, destructive storms like we saw last year, Beryl, Helene, and Milton, will become more common. And also heat waves are becoming more dangerous, are more common. We know that the US jumped from an average of 2 heat waves per year during the 60s decade to more than 6 per year during the 2020s. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at how NOAA has been compromised this danger season. So far, since the administration, the second Trump administration began, cuts made by the by DOGE cut 20% of NOAA staff, laid off people, offered early retirements. The National Weather Service, which is organized under NOAA, lost about 9% of its workforce. 33 National Weather Service offices don't have a chief meteorologist. 4 of these offices in the Gulf Coast, where hurricanes are more prone, have no chief meteorologist. Weather balloon launches have been suspended. There have been vacancy rates of around 35% in some of these offices, and overnight shifts have been eliminated. And many tools that help us be informed about climate disasters have been taken offline, namely the $1 billion disaster tracker that NOAA had been running since the 80s. So these are public goods that we have paid for already. The National Weather Service is paid by taxpayer dollars. NOAA is funded by taxpayer dollars. All of these entities are here to serve us and keep us informed and keep us protected from climate change and from extreme weather. And so dismantling these means that hurricane forecasts are not going to come in a timely manner with the best available science. So you may hear from the administration that that NOAA has what it needs, like computers, for example, but the fact is that there are cuts to less known parts of NOAA, less publicly known parts of NOAA, like the Office of Atmospheric Research, for example, in which the National Weather Service depends on, and the staff, right? So so this is equivalent to removing the motor from your printer and expecting still to get a color copy, right? So it's taking away our ability to stay informed and to stay safe from climate change. Next slide, please. There's a proposed budget that came from the White House for fiscal year 2026, and that proposed budget will be a disaster. Thankfully, there are some of these things that have been rejected by Congress through bipartisan efforts, but some of the things that were proposed were dismantling, again, the entirety of the Oceanic and Atmospheric Research Program, on which the National Weather Service and many other scientists and units depend on to issue accurate forecasts and understand hurricane structure and tornadoes and all kinds of atmospheric weather events. The budget proposed cutting all 11 NOAA research labs, 16 cooperative research institutes that include 80 university partners across 33 states, 6 regional climate centers, significant cuts to programs that enable young scientists, especially scientists of color, and from low-income communities that otherwise would not have had opportunities for professional training in the sciences. Those programs are cut as well. and a 40% reduction on to the National Center for Atmospheric Research, NCAR, and to National Science Foundation. Next slide, please. Got it? There you go. Thank you. So this connection between climate and extreme weather is well established by climate science. At UCS, we keep track of extreme weather that gets worse between May and October, like I mentioned, the period that we call danger season. So we keep track of National Weather Service alerts for extreme heat, floods, storms, and fire weather conditions that make it more likely that wildfires will break out. Our daily tracker, which you can visit at dangerseason.ucs.org, allows us to track daily how many people are on their alerts, what percentage live in areas designated as disadvantaged, according to the White House's Climate and Economic Justice Screening tool that was developed and deployed during the Biden administration. What percentage of people in the country, including the Caribbean territories, have been under at least one alert? Thank you, Maysay. And we make a link to climate change by assessing what percent of heat alerts are most likely to have occurred due to climate change by combining an indicator called the Climate Shift Index developed by our friends at Climate Central. And as Maysay posted there, today the daily tracker says that nearly 100 million people in the country are under extreme weather alerts. That's nearly 1/3 of people in the country, right? Next slide, please.
Hi, I'm just coming off mute for a moment to re-sign our interpreters really quickly.
Okay, I can wait.
Yeah, just give me one moment.
Sure.
Okay. We should be all good now.
Okay.
Get back to your slides.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so at the end of danger season, after October, both in 2023 and 2024, we generated a roundup of numbers and a video animation of that year's danger season events. I'll share the links to these. These are animations. These are just stills of the animations that we generate, and we focus on specific notable events. In 2023, Phoenix was made the rounds because it had 31 consecutive days with temperatures over 110. I lived there for a while. I lived for a long time, and I have friends who live there, and I know it was a brutally hot season. Puerto Rico faced some significant number of heat alerts as well. And then in 2024, there was flooding from Hurricane Helene. There were impacts from Hurricane Helene as far as 500 miles away from where it made landfall in Asheville, North Carolina. You will remember that sadly and tragically, hundreds of people lost their lives in landslides from associated with that hurricane. So this is a resource that we have compiled in both English and Spanish. I can share the links a little bit later on the chat. Next slide, please. So now I'll switch gears a little bit to show you how we've been using our danger season tracking to assess how the Trump administration's cuts is allowing at best a patchwork of protections from extreme heat for workers and people in communities. You may remember that in late June, there was a brutal heat dome that hovered along the eastern part of the US. Here in this map, the counties in yellow are the ones that were under heat alerts. On June 25th, that represented around more than 255 million people. And the pink outlines show the states that have enacted heat protection standards for workers, both indoor and outdoor workers. As you may know, especially outdoor workers are exposed to extreme heat, those that work in agriculture, extractive activities, delivery services, and so on. And we also know that Latinos and other people of color are overrepresented in those occupations in the country. So the map clearly shows that while there were a large number of people in the country that were exposed to this brutal heat, only one state had protections for workplace protections and work that mandate shade, rest, training, to recognize the signs of a heat stroke or other kind of heat-related illness. Next slide, please. So when we look at the occupations that were impacted, this comes from a work that we did around 2020 called Too Hot to Work, where we took a look at how workers would be exposed to extreme heat, and how much money they would lose if they could not work because it would be too hot to work. Here I estimated the percentages of different occupations that were under that heat, or those workers that were working under that heat on June 25th. And you can see that for most of the categories of occupations, like protective services, materials moving, transportation, and so on, about half of the workers in those categories were exposed. While farming, fishing, and forestry services were clocked in at about a quarter. Again, a significant amount of workers that were exposed to this brutal heat. Next slide, please. We took a different slice at this using the same counties with heat alerts on June 25th, and we looked at states that have enacted protections against utility disconnections for under high temperatures. We know that there are many energy burdened households in the country, which are those that spend a large fraction of their income on power bills for either cooling and heating. So heads of households sometimes have to decide if they will keep their home cool or warm enough, or if they're going to put food on the table or make some other financial decisions. In this map, you can see that only 21 states plus Washington, D.C. have enacted such protections from utility shutoffs during hot weather. At least one death of a woman in St. Louis a couple of weeks ago was attributed to a utility disconnection, again, highlighting the need to have protections against utility disconnections to save lives. Next slide, please. So continuing on this topic of protection for energy burdened folks, we also looked at the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP, which is a program designed to provide bill assistance for power bills. This program originated as a heating program, but it has expanded in some places to also cover cooling or to cover bill assistance during the hot season. Thanks to data compiled by our friends at NRDC, we were able to map which states have dedicated LIHEAP programs for bill payment assistance for cooling and or during the summertime. Again, we see a patchwork of dedicated assistance, which will hurt energy burdened folks more. This is made worse by cuts in LIHEAP program staff. So though the funds for LIHEAP eligible households are still there and haven't been canceled by the administration last time we checked, it's everyone's guess if there are still LIHEAP staff in program offices to distribute the funds, because apparently a lot of those staff in states and state program offices were laid off, were told not to come to work, and so on. Next slide, please. Last map. Here I mentioned earlier that a number of local National Weather Service offices, which are the local offices that issue the alerts for tornadoes or snow or storms or extreme heat that you get on your phone, that you get on your social media and so on, that 33 of these no longer have senior leadership known as meteorologists in charge, or MICs. And these MICs are experienced scientists that provide senior leadership. They do the QA/QC of alerts data. They provide a critical liaison engagement with first responders in advance of and during wildfires, flooding, hurricanes, as it may be the case in different parts of the country. We assembled this map in late May. A few more have been added to the list since then: DC, Fort Worth, Texas, Jacksonville, Florida, and Oakland, but are not shown in the map. Again, there are 4 of these along the Gulf Coast, and we're entering peak hurricane season, so this is very, very troubling. As of the making of the map, this represented additional risks to nearly 78 million people in about 800 counties. Those areas in orange cover about 800 counties. So thanks to these cuts, they don't have the experienced leadership of seasoned meteorologists. Okay, last slide, please. At UCS, we have a great deal of resources that we have developed. We have reports with fact sheets. A lot of the material is in Spanish as well. A lot of the online material, including GIS maps, are in Spanish as well. We have multiple blogs, scientist letters that we have led, sign-on letters to urge the administration to respect the science and to not interfere in the work of scientists, and to allow them to continue doing their work to protect people. You can reach out to me or any other folks here if you want to learn more, want more information. And I like to take any questions or comments now if you have any.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to flag that we have around like 10-ish minutes for not only questions but also discussion about this topic. I also want to flag, we put it in the chat, but here is where we were referencing a lot of those data points. They have that map there that shows communities in danger regarding extreme heat, flooding, fire, weather, storms, and then multiple hazards as well with air quality. Actually, I think I can maybe share my screen real quick. And Juan, if you'd be willing, maybe just if you have any other details on this map.
Yeah, well, let's see. Are you sharing the danger season map? Yeah, the map itself is fairly minimalistic. It's designed just to give you the ability to click on a county or search for an area and see if your area is under an alert today. This pulls data directly from the National Weather Service. We have a version in Spanish as well. We have a link to our blog series on danger season that we've been working on since 2023. We have found this to be a very useful set of information and framing, especially when we do Hill engagement. We have been able to provide also some of these alerts at the congressional district level for specific members of Congress, and to use it. And this year we've been using it to highlight the way in which the National Weather Service, NOAA, and the whole of the federal scientific enterprise, it works to keep us safe and informed. There are some things that are very visible to most of us, like National Weather Service alerts and so on, but there are many other things that happen behind the scenes, like the Office of Atmospheric Research, like the way NASA provides data that NOAA uses and incorporates, and National Weather Service uses and incorporates, and most people are not aware of. And it's important for people to know and understand that that these federal civil servants are here to protect the American people, and that's why they have done this. That's why they went into these service careers as opposed to the private sector. And that's from conversations I've had with some of them.
And again, just to highlight, you said this is updated daily, right? I think I've been checking this and the number keeps changing, and it's kind of cool to see how that happens. Is that data that you guys are getting, like, where specifically is some of this data coming from?
Well, the number of people currently on their weather alerts come from the census. We have a daily piece of software that grabs the National Weather Service alerts and then counts all the people in the counties that are under those alerts, and that's the number you see there. So that number is current for the day, and we have some cumulative numbers that are below if you scroll down, that tell you how many people have been in the country have been under an alert. So we're already at 99%, at least. So most every single county and county equivalent in the country has been under at least one of these 4 kinds of alerts. This year we added air quality to it. That comes from a separate EPA data source, because air quality for small particulates, PM 2.5, because of the link between wildfires that are linked to climate change and bad air quality. So yeah, those are our data sources. There's a methodology document below there that you can consult as well, or you can ask me more questions.
Awesome, thank you. I'll go ahead and stop sharing this, but again, that link is down below. If we can bring up our slides again, awesome. Yeah, we have still some time. If anyone has any questions or comments, I saw down in the chat, Carlos from our team highlighted that we're working on worker heat injury protection rules in New Mexico. Don't know if you want to speak a little bit about that. Latinos as a whole has been working on a lot of different protections for indoor and outdoor workers. And I can maybe drop the link on some of those links. But Carlos, if you have a moment, not to put you on the spot, but would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So here in New Mexico, as you all know, we are a desert state. We do have a significant number of days over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and due to climate change and the way that we do agriculture in our state, we are also seeing increases in relative humidity, which increases wet bulb temperatures here in Mexico. So what we are working on is with New Mexico OSHA, we're trying to develop reasonable heat injury protection rules that make sure that workers, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in landscaping, whether it's in construction, have protections that make sure they don't have to be in extreme, they don't have to suffer injury, illness, even death from the extreme heat we're facing that is increasing in our state and others. Right now, there are no actual protections for workers here in New Mexico. We have been delayed by New Mexico OSHA until at least January on adhering to make sure that we can protect our workers. We are actively working on that, actively reaching out to labor unions, to workers' rights groups to get over 2,000 petition signatures for down until it's standing. So we're working on it, and I know that a lot of you are working on this in other states that we applaud protecting our workers, our families, and our children from.
Yeah, Carlos, that's a very important fight because there are some states that are doing basically the bidding of both the climate deniers and also businesses that don't want to enact these protections by lobbying to get legislators to pass laws that prevent sub-state jurisdictions from enacting any sort of protection, including heat worker, protection for from heat for workers. It's not exclusive to that, but it's sort of a straitjacket that they're trying to put on local jurisdictions that recognize the problem. And so I think one of my colleagues is from Kentucky, and she recently posted a blog post about that. I'm going to find it and post it here if I get a chance. So yeah, it's super mind-boggling, right? But here we are.
And just dropping in the chat, I put some information on the national efforts to create protections from OSHA. Green Latinos led on this, and the link there has the different testimonies. If you'd like to see me, Carlos, and Patricia from the Colorado team speak on this, we spoke on July 1st. I think we were at like the 4-hour mark, if I remember correctly. I also dropped down below from a partner organization we are collaborating with, just kind of a little bit more information about state-based protections. So there's both national and then the state efforts. Obviously, with the political climate right now, we don't know where those national or federal protections are going to be pushed, but it's still something that we are pushing on. In the chat, I also have Juan talked a little bit about Hurricane Helene, about their business and how they were impacted. I'm not sure if you'd like to share any more about that. Don't feel pressured to, as well if anyone else has any questions.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share about that. We had opened the business in June of 24 last year, and downtown Tampa, and our business was sub street level, so you had to walk downstairs, right? street level, and then walk down a flight of stairs in an open plaza to get to the business. And with Hurricane Milton, we had water that came in, all the units on the bottom there, along the bottom there, were flooded. We had 5 feet of water that came in, and many of those businesses to date have not rebuilt. We had been quoted 8 to 10 months before they could get in and redo work on the facility, right, to bring it back up to code. And so we lost product, we lost time, and the area just hasn't recovered much. I will say that I was impressed with Tampa and St. Pete because a lot of their early notifications for warnings, alerts, and for evacuations, mandatory and otherwise, were in Spanish from the get-go. And I really appreciated that from the community. And a lot of the tourist islands also had all of their signage and their PSAs on social media, on radio. They had English and Spanish, so that was huge. To me, that was impressive, and it was pretty good. But yeah, having been through Debbie, Helene, and Milton in the 4 months that I was living there, kind of trying out the Tampa St. Pete area to see how much I would like it, it was definitely an eye opener having to and especially for Latino communities, there wasn't a lot of preparation on how to prepare for the hurricane, how to deal with the aftermath, how to fill out FEMA forms, right? I've got a master's in public health, a bachelor's in health education and outreach, and filling out the forms was not intuitive or easy, right? So understanding that, and that a lot of those resources just weren't there and available for our community members as well. So that was, I think of all of those things as part of the extreme weather and these danger seasons, the impacts, preparation before the event and then recovery after, because the devastation, and then nobody addresses the mental health component. I had a lot of first responder friends that also lost their homes or their property, and just the devastation that they saw, and in some cases the few deaths that they did see, right, the lingering effects and impacts of that people don't address for first responders or for the community in general. When right when now that it's hurricane season again, how many of those folks are getting triggered by the alerts and warnings from Hurricane Aaron, and right, so it's just a host of things that aren't addressed. And I think that we could do better, as with our administration, or the states can try to lead there, and then organizations like Green Latinos are doing such an important work to address some of those issues.
Yeah, definitely. And something, Juan, maybe this could be one of our final questions, but would love, since we talked a little bit about FEMA and NOAA, and I know there's acronyms, maybe kind of just giving us a little bit of what each of those agencies are and do, just for a little bit of a background for those who are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you have the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's a cabinet level agency. I'm sorry, it's not a cabinet level agency. It's organized under a cabinet level agency, the Department of Commerce, right? NOAA in turn houses the National Weather Service, which is what most of us are familiar with, which is the agency that's or the division that issues extreme weather alerts that you get on your phone, issues the information that your local weather person on TV or on social media uses. So those are the main parts of the federal government that use extreme weather science and climate change science to keep us informed, to alert people, and to alert first responders, to alert the governors and county emergency management folks that will need to issue for example, a evacuation order for areas that are going to face, I don't know, 10 feet of storm surge because of a hurricane, and so on. And they provide a good amount of coordination with their local weather offices, with local first responders in different parts of the country. Then after a disaster happens, after people are impacted and lose their homes, then recovery agencies like FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, is supposed to step in, right? Supposed to coordinate at the federal level to deploy the resources of the federal government to assist people, to process assistance requests, for emergency funds, to set up temporary housing and tarps or mobile homes, or to give people cash so they can check into a hotel, buy food, buy supplies, diapers, food, and so on. There's also Housing and Urban Development, HUD, that also has a role in helping people rebuild after a disaster, disaster recovery funding, and they collaborate. But all this constellation of federal agencies are under threat, are under attack. They've been dismantled, staff is inspired, budgets have been slashed, data has been taken down from websites. So we're in the dark. Does that help? I know that's not encyclopedic, but
Yeah, definitely. I think that really helps us out. So like NOAA was that studies, forecasts, and like alerts, while FEMA is the one that responds. I think it's kind
correct.
of, I don't know if a tangent here, but I've been watching that Katrina documentary, and it's very interesting to see how those agencies work, and kind of some of the funding needs that are needed, especially seeing something like that and hearing about all the cuts that are happening now, just kind of alerts a lot of our community.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out, there was a lot of unfair maligning of federal workers. It was one of the main sort of impetus behind those, behind Project 2025, literally written in those documents, trying to present federal workers as being leeches on the system, as being here to steal the taxpayers' money, and I've talked to many of them. We've talked to many of them collectively, and they say things like, listen, we took jobs in government service instead of going to the federal to the private sector to make more money, because we want to bring our skills to service the American people, and so taking away those jobs in the way that they were taking away, it's not just taking away the livelihoods of people who are serving the public, it's also taking away it's stealing the things that we already paid for as taxpayers. The National Weather Service, NOAA, the satellite data, the cloud services that house the data, the staff that keep us informed. So
Yeah, definitely. And again, everyone, we do have this all recorded. If you have any questions, for Juan, we do have his information up here, but we will be sending a recap email with all of these different links that were put in the chat, just as a follow-up. Again, Juan, thank you so much for your presentation. That was really helpful, and I think it was a great discussion and very timely with what's going on right now.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Cumbia, if you can go into the next slide. Oh, we forgot. Well, we already had our Q&A, so it's like from there. Do want to quickly flag that we do have a blog post that talks about extreme weather, and it kind of talks a little bit about the OSHA efforts that we have been doing in the past. You guys can check this out by visiting our blog post series. This is available in both English and Spanish. And yeah, we had fun with this little graphic. We thought of the melting popsicles. So I just put that down in the chat if you'd like to read that. Next slide, please. So now for one of our first major updates that our program would like to inform you on is the efforts about stripping away EPA's effort to strip away the foundational law that gives them the power to act on climate. Something called the endangerment finding. You may have been hearing a lot about this recently in the news. In simple terms, this law says climate pollution from burning oil, gas, and coal is dangerous to our health and our future, and that the EPA must act to protect us. If it's revoked, the EPA will lose its ability to limit climate pollution. That means more extreme heat, stronger storms, dirtier air, and more harm to our communities, especially those on the front lines who are being hit the hardest. The reality is, with this current administration leading the EPA and the EPA's leadership, this rollback is likely to pass, but that does make it even more important for us to flood the record with opposition. By speaking out, we make it clear that they're acting without public support, something that can help future legal challenges and lay the groundwork for restoring these protections when the EPA is back to doing its job of protecting people, not polluters. So we're helping collect comments for this, and we would like to invite you to add your voice to tell the EPA to keep this life-saving protection in place. The deadline is September 22nd. Here in the chat, I put our easy action alert that you can click on. This just has you fill out your name, some of your information, and we have a pre-written comment that can be submitted. We can also send you over more information on how to submit a longer comment. Green Latinos will be coming out with a action alert with that later on in the following week. Next slide, please. Second one we have is want to share about our Share Your Story campaign to cut methane pollution. So, low background on methane. Methane is a supercharged climate pollutant. It traps over 80 times more heat than carbon dioxide in the short term, and the oil and gas industry is one of the biggest sources. Again, that means more extreme weather, more health problems, and more harm to our communities, especially those frontline communities. We've made a simple way for you to get involved. You can record a short video, send a quick voice memo, write a short testimony with a photo, or even if you are up to it, publish a letter to your local paper. However you choose to share, you'll help put a face to this issue. And here is the bonus. We've been collaborating with Patagonia with our different story collections. So when you submit your story, you're entered to win some Patagonia gear. So not only are you sharing and helping us with this fight, you also have a chance to win some sustainable gear. Please take a moment to share your story today. This one does take a little more time, so maybe put some time aside later on this week to submit your story. Next slide, please. Last major update that I want to include in today's encuentro is our upcoming New York Climate Week event. So our program and just Green Latinos in whole is collaborating with Uprose in New York City to have our State of Nuestro Clima event. This is on September 25th from 12 to 6, and it's going to be in Uprose's Climate Justice Center. So this is in Brooklyn, New York. It's going to be part of a series of events that Uprose is hosting that are going to be more environmental justice focused and more community focused. So for those who are familiar with New York Climate Week, sometimes it can feel a little corporate, can feel a little big green on that side. So we're hoping focus in on the community side of events. Our event will have panels on extreme heat, energy, impacts to the Caribbean, and then we'll also have an art build, our climate cocktails event, which will have some live music, and our GL Live Awards. So more information will be coming out. You should be seeing an email from the main Green Latinos email in the following week. But for now, we just tell you to save the date, September 25th. Next slide, please. Any questions on any of those updates? Again, I have all those links sent in the chat, and then we'll send those out again in our email. Looks like no questions. Back to the next slide. Real quick, want to highlight our membership information here. If you joined us through our Climate Justice and Clean Air Colectivo, that means you're signed up for our Colectivo, but you might not be signed up for the Green Latinos membership in whole. So we recommend you to sign up for this membership. It's anything from a $0 contribution up to contributing some money, helps us kind of fund our work, but also gets you into more of our resources. So we have a Slack channel where we have updates going on there. We also have encuentros and different materials for our membership. So we really encourage you to sign up for that. I'll be dropping the link down below. Last slide, please, I think. Yes, membership updates. So I want to hand it over to you all if y'all have any membership updates. Anything from any of your organizations that you would like to highlight, events, actions, floor is yours now. Just feel free to raise your hand. It looks like we might not have any updates from everyone. If there is any updates, feel free to use that Colectivo email listserv that everyone is a part of. You can send out any actions, any updates that you want to keep our Colectivo up to date. Last slide, please. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone so much for attending. Again, we'll have this recorded and we'll send out that follow-up email with all the information shared. If you guys have topic suggestions for our upcoming meetings or want to join the listserv, feel free to email me at mesegonzalez@greenlatinos.org or visit our specific page, which is greenlatinos.org/climate-and-clean-air. And thank you all so much. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And we'll stay on for a minute or two if anyone has questions. All right, I think we're good to close off, Cumbia. Thanks again, everyone.